You want to know why I felt the way I did about this movie? Well, stick around. Yes, as you probably know by now, I'm a big Toy Story fan. I made videos about all 3 movies leading up to Toy Story 4, and so when it finally came out, I was like, it was okay. It felt weird to say that, so I felt it necessary to do a spoiler talk for Toy Story 4. So that is a spoiler warning. If you have not seen Toy Story 4, don't watch this video unless you don't care, in which case, alright, cool. So Toy Story 4, there were things I liked and did not like about the movie, and when it gets to be pretty even like that, that's usually the case for me giving a movie my discount rating, which is my middle rating, my neutral rating, if you will, as is the case with Toy Story 4. So the movie begins with actually this kind of flashback prologue, which was the scene I was talking about where it said the rain was falling and it looked really real. You know, Woody's trying to grab RC, who's stuck in the gutter, and it's just muddy and rainy, and I was like, wow, yeah, props to the details. But then Bo Peep gets taken away, and so when she and Woody say goodbye, I was like, yeah, alright, this is a sad scene. As far as Woody and Bo's romance goes, this movie went about as far as a G rating would let it. Like, they hug each other a lot, and they're like gazing into each other's eyes. It would have been kind of unsettling to see 2 toys kiss, I'm just saying. But when you watch this movie, admit that you were thinking about it. Or am I just weird? But anyway, the scene goes on, and then it shows this montage with the original You've Got a Friend in Me playing in the background, which is now 3 out of the 4 Toy Story movies to feature the original version of that song in the beginning. But again, this montage is going on, kind of covering the event, well, not the events of the last 3 movies, but like showing how the toys go from Andy to Bonnie. And again, I was like, yeah, alright, here's the Toy Story feel-good feeling. But it shows that Woody is not being played with as much with Bonnie as he was with Andy, which actually does make sense. I mean, Bonnie's a little girl. She would choose Jessie over Woody, it just makes sense. But honestly, would she discard Woody before discarding, like, Ham or Potato Head or anyone? I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but I don't feel like she would. But Woody being neglected like this, it kind of threw me for a loop because, like him, I was used to Woody being the favorite toy, the leader of the group. So it felt strange to me to have him just sit in the closet while Bonnie plays with everyone else. So Bonnie's parents want to take her to her kindergarten orientation, and this is where the movie started really hitting me because Bonnie is really shy and scared, and I was in that exact same spot when I was her age. I remember. Maybe not quite her age, maybe a little older. My story goes, after 3rd grade, I ended up switching to a new school. Thing is, I didn't know that I'd be switching until the day before the new school year started. So it was like a huge culture shock to me, and I remember walking into that classroom for the first time, and I'll just say I was in worse condition than Bonnie was. I'm just saying. It was not a fun day for me. So I knew what Bonnie was going through in that scene, and it made me feel really bad for the kid. What can I say? Which is why Woody ended up sneaking into her backpack and essentially helping her make Forky, which is another thing. Like, he's sneaking behind the lunchbox and throwing these utensils and stuff up onto the table. And again, like the 3rd movie, there were quite a few scenes in this movie where I was like, no, like someone definitely would have seen that toy moving on its own. And that was one of those scenes. I could let them slide in the 3rd movie because the story was really good. In this one, I was not a huge fan of the story, so I can't let them slide, really. I'll touch more on this later, but jumping forward in the movie, when Woody is reunited with Bo Peep, I actually really like this scene, and I like what they did with Bo Peep in this movie. You know, she's been out on her own for 7 fantastic years, and she's made a new friend, a little confidant, Giggle McDimples, voiced by Mina Hess from Cloak and Dagger, Ally Mackey. I actually really love that little thing. She was short and spunky, she hopped around like a flea, and she's the one who was on to Woody and Bo's relationship, and you know, she's going up to Bo, he's like, alright, cowboy, what's the deal? She sees Woody's sheriff badge, and she's like, whoa, he didn't tell me he was a cop! Howdy, Sheriff. Officer Giggle McDimples. I work for the Minneapolis Pet Rescue. I was like, this might be one of my new favorite characters in the Toy Story franchise. And also the fact that Bo Peep is an amputee. Like, Bo helps Woody up in one scene, and he ends up yanking her arm off, and she's like, ah! Oh no, I'm just kidding, it happens all the time. I was like, holy crap, this movie's still rated G? I don't care if it's toys or not, that might freak kids out a little bit. Plus, it might make some actual amputees watching the movie mad, because she can just tape her arm back on and she's good to go. They'd be like, if only it were that easy. I don't know for sure though, I'm just assuming. This movie's also, like most other Pixar movies, chock full of Pixar Easter eggs, which I always love seeing in these Pixar movies. Some of the most obvious ones were actually pretty funny, like the scene where Bo's sheep bring up that grape soda thing that was in the movie Up. Right when I saw that, I was like, ah, yeah, look at that. And also, Tinny makes an appearance. That is a huge throwback. I feel like most kids today won't even know who Tinny is. Tin Toy was one of the first Pixar shorts ever made. I think it was, what, 1988? When he showed up in this movie, I was like, holy crap. Didn't see that one coming. But talking about Buzz Lightyear because he was totally underused in this movie, just saying he was. His whole story arc in this movie was finding out what an inner conscious is, and it was just, I don't know. To me, it was taken the wrong way. Like, Woody's talking with Buzz about, oh, my inner voice would kill me if I let Forky get away. And Buzz is all like, who do you think that inner voice is? I was like, are you kidding me? You don't know what a conscience is? So throughout the movie, while Buzz is trying to find Woody and help him out, he's pressing his own buttons, which activates his voice box, which he perceives to be his inner voice. So he took it, like, too literally. I was like, Buzz, I get that you're not the brightest, but you're not that stupid. I'm just saying you seemed a lot wiser in Toy Story 2, because I thought that was stupid. But really, the meat of the story comes from Woody's loyalty issues. And here's where I have to jump in. See, Bonnie made Forky, and Forky got lost, so Woody has to find Forky to return him to Bonnie, because Bonnie loves Forky, like, a lot. But when Woody meets up with Bo again, who is loyal to no one, it does mess with his head a bit. Woody's like, I have to find Forky because Forky is Bonnie's toy, and that's just how it is. And I don't know about you, but I was 100% with him. I was like, yeah, Woody and Forky have to get back to Bonnie, because they're Bonnie's toys. It doesn't matter if Woody's being neglected, he still belongs to Bonnie, he's Bonnie's property. Whereas Bo's point of view is like, why are you loyal to Bonnie? Like, Bonnie's not treating you really well. Why not just live for yourself? My answer would have been, because you belong to Bonnie. Toys have to follow certain rules. They can't live for themselves, because that's just not how the world is. I'm sorry if that seems a little harsh, but that's just how the world is. Or at least how the Toy Story world has set it up over the course of 3 movies already. Who knows, Bonnie might want to see Woody again in the future. So I agreed with him when he said that being there for a kid is the most noble thing a toy can do. Which leads to the scene where he gets his voice box ripped out, which I also didn't like. Gabby, voiced by Christina Hendricks, who I didn't even mention in my review. She's something of a villain in the movie. I mean, she's no Lotso or Prospector. I did like her as a character though, because she kind of went through what Prospector was going through. Like, she was just sitting there on a dime store shelf watching every other toy be sold, but it was because her own voice box was defective. She was a broken toy. So eventually she does win Woody over with her words, and so they do like an organ transplant, which I was like, no, you can't take Woody's voice box out. I mean, his pull string, like, that's an essential part of Woody's character. You know, reach for the sky, somebody's poisoned the water hole. You can't have Woody without that. Can you? Well, I guess we do now. But in the end, it doesn't even matter that Gabby has a good voice box now, because the kids she wanted to be with just dumped her anyway, but she finds another kid, so it ends up being okay. I was like, okay, that character's arc is done. Next. I didn't really care for Gabby. Her story is done, and now Woody's left without a voice box or a pull string. Now he just has stitches on his back. And speaking of things I didn't like in this movie, alright, the crew, the gang, you know, Ham, Slinky, Potato Heads, Rex, were they even in this movie? I mean, yeah, okay, they were, but what part did they have? They were barely in this movie. I just wish their part in the story was bigger. I kind of see why it wasn't that big though, because most of those voice actors are really old. Like Wallace Shawn, Estelle Harris, Don Rickles is not even with us anymore. Rest in peace. They ended up using unused recordings from everything he did, from the movies to the Disney theme park rides, the video games, and in the end, I feel like Mr. Potato Head said like 3 or 4 things in the movie. So I feel like it didn't really matter that much. Even Jessie didn't have that big of a part. That really bummed me out, because she's one of my favorite characters in Toy Story. Basically, this crew, the gang, they stopped Bonnie's parents from leaving the carnival so they can get Woody and Forky and Buzz back. And I didn't really like their methods. Like when Bonnie's mom was about to put Buzz in that cabinet, he actually says out loud, he's like, "You left your backpack in the antique store, let's go!" That happened a couple times in this movie where a toy actually had to use their actual voice to get something going. I was like, no, that was taking it way too far. Again, when little Trixie Triceratops was voicing the GPS and being like, turn right, turn right. Any adult with common sense would be like, that's clearly not the GPS's voice. What's going on? Holy crap, the toys are alive. That's just what would happen realistically. It's just way too unrealistic. That scene in particular really brought the movie down for me. But now we get to the end of the movie. Here we go. The movie ends with Woody ultimately deciding to stay with Bo Peep and leaving his friends that he's had for years. First time I saw this movie, I was sitting there watching like, is this really happening? Like they're actually going through with this. Are you serious? I couldn't believe my eyes. People, this is Toy Story we're talking about here. Toy Story is Woody and Buzz. It always has been, and it should always be. Or at least that's how I feel. That's what Toy Story is to me. I mean, after the 3rd movie made such a big deal out of we should stick together. Now in this one, it's like, nah, I'm just gonna leave you guys and do my own thing. Again, Woody belongs to Bonnie. It doesn't matter if Bonnie's neglecting him. He's still her toy. Again, Bonnie might change her mind about Woody in the future. So that's like 2 big reasons I didn't like the end of this film. I just don't like the idea of separating Woody from Buzz. It's the same reason I didn't like the end of Ralph Breaks the Internet. Because Vanellope belongs in her own game, Sugar Rush. You know, she belongs to that game. And plus, Ralph and Vanellope have to say goodbye to each other. I don't like that. Because I've been through that, you know, where friends have to say goodbye to each other. I get it, you know, that's what happens in life. Friends say goodbye because their lives move in different paths. I get it. But no one likes that, and I don't want to see that in my movies. I feel like in order for me to like the ending of Toy Story 4, there would have to be a Toy Story 5 that brings Woody and Buzz back together. As in, the ending of this movie was not an end as much as it was just part of the story. The end of this chapter. So then I could go, okay, that's not the end of their story. They don't just end apart from each other. They see each other again. Oh, that's good. Phew. That's really the main reason I wasn't a big fan of this film. It hit certain emotions with me, but it didn't hit the right ones. It didn't make me feel sad or bittersweet like the other three did. Again, I'm sorry if you're mad about how I feel, but I just have to be honest. And now I'm kind of hoping that there's a Toy Story 5 so we can reunite Woody and Buzz. But again, I don't know if it's gonna happen, because these voice actors are getting older. So a Toy Story 5 would need to happen rather soonish. I don't know though. I just don't know. So Toy Story 4, what was your favorite part of the movie and what was your least favorite part of the movie? And do you think there's gonna be a Toy Story 5 in however many years' time? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.